Hey everybody, it's Mucha Marapa from Matrix Global Media and welcome to Ask the Experts. Normally when I introduce the show, I talk about, we're talking to leading experts and we're finding out what they've learned and what they do and so on and so forth. But this is a highly personal interview today because I can honestly tell you that this gentleman who I've got on the line transformed the direction in which I sort of decided to take my business. And I'll never forget reading these now famous words in my mind: knowing how to update your Facebook page, write an engaging blog, or create a viral YouTube video is worthless without knowing how to make them produce sales. That was absolute music to my ears. And I'm just so thrilled to have my friend and social media expert, Jeff Molander, on the phone. Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Hey, it's great as always to connect with you, Mucha. Thank you for the kind words. Big smile on my face after hearing that. I love when my words have influence on people. We all love that when we say something that people consider to be meaningful. So I'm blessed. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to sort of give you plenty of time to talk, as you can imagine, but I just want to explain a little bit more to all those who are listening on how things sort of really changed for me. And by all means, Jeff, jump in here and sort of correct me wherever I'm sort of a little off line here. But through some great fortune, received a link for a webinar, and I believe it was a couple of years ago. And you were conducting that webinar with a gentleman called Gunnar, I believe. And during this conversation, it was the first time that I just heard somebody saying, well, it's all very well engaging people and adding value, but come on, I mean, it's not like we don't do that in our businesses anyway. And I just felt, all of a sudden, here is somebody who is really getting it about the concerns we have with social media. So I suppose, Jeff, taking a great line from Joe Polish and Dean Jackson, who is Jeff Molander and why should people listen to you when it comes to how to make social media sell?
Well, again, thank you for the kind words. I think because what I'm teaching and how I'm teaching it is very different than most social media experts out there, Mucha. And I think that resonates with what you just said. So in essence, I say that the time has come to move beyond being liked, being followed, and even building a fan base. Because like you said, very eloquently, it's not like we're not out there doing that anyway. In that way, I think being liked is pretty juvenile if you think about it. I mean, we're business people, right? We're supposed to be business people. So the time has come to make social media sell for you. Now, I know it sounds trite, but here is the essence of why people seem to be attracted to what I have to say. It's different. It is not what they've been told before and about social media. And you know what, Mucha? What I've got to share actually helps them create leads and sales, not just followers and fans. So what I've got to say truly seems to be empowering people and not by smothering them with information so that they can run out there and just do social media, which frankly is what I was doing for a while there. I mean, we're reacting to social media. Here is social media. It shows up. And, it's time to go out there and do it because why? Our customers are there. Our customers, we, are immersed in it ourselves. But, that's not really an answer, in my opinion. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm helping people learn and apply a proven, practical process that creates sales with social media.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. And just as a little case study, I'll have all the sort of final answers probably early in the new year, but I've actually currently got 3 fan pages that I'm running some tests on, Jeff. One has got over 3,000 fans, the other has got about 1,100 fans, and a third one, get this, has 40 fans. And you're going to know the answer to this, but guess which one has generated business for me? It's the one.
I'm guessing the one with the 40.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it was just a test I did because you're exactly right on that whole story. But Jeff, for me, it was a bit of an aha moment because, of course, as you well know, I'm a direct response marketer, and I think that the number of different modalities that you have to market, be it direct mail, be it a workshop, be it a newspaper ad, be it it is great. And so I always did try my best in the early days to see social media as just another outlet, albeit a very significant one. Mm. But I've explained what sort of gave me my aha moment. What gave you yours? When did you begin to say, you know what, I got to make social media sell here. I've got to demonstrate that it can sell. When did that happen for you?
Well, I mean, I've been using online marketing. I'm 44 years old. I've been using online marketing since it showed up. I've been in sales and marketing. So I suppose that I've been struggling with it since day one. I've always said to myself, gee, this is something that ought to, it ought to be very easy. And I was like everybody else. I was struggling to apply online marketing, and when social media came along, I jumped on board. And like everybody else, I turned to these experts that, the instant experts, Mucha. This thing just got here, but somehow there are these people who have mastered it.
I know.
So I turned to them, and the more I did what they told me, the more I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, because I wasn't getting anywhere. No, don't get me wrong. They told me that it was very important to get liked and to get followed, and I was getting all that, but I wasn't getting any, I don't know, leads and sales, silly things like that, right? So I said to myself, let's go to the bookstore and let's find the guide to making social media sell. And I went to Barnes & Noble, and I went online to Amazon, and I'm looking, and I found a lot of books that said, this is you got to get on board with this. Social media is important. Here's why it's important. Don't get left behind, which I already understood. I already felt like I was getting left behind. And I found some really good books on, how to use Facebook advertising, how to set up a Twitter account, how to actually use blog software, and, push the buttons. But I never found a guidebook that said, here is how you actually create a lead or a sale. So what I decided to do was go out and find out how small business owners, big brands were making it happen and generating leads and sales with social media. So I went to North American companies. I went to people in the UK, over by you, Mucha. I went to Eastern European companies, even in Slovenia. I was able to find remarkable success stories. Business to business, business to consumer. Australia, I interviewed some people from there. So all these different regions of the world. And what I was able to realize was that no matter what kind of organization, no matter how many people were working for the organization, even these one-person type of operations, there were, in essence, 3 success principles that each of these people or these organizations were doing without really realizing it many times. So I said to myself, well, why don't I distill everything down to what I've learned to these 3 success principles that I can apply each day in my business, and then maybe I can make social media sell for me, right, in my consulting business. Mm-hmm. So lo and behold, I did just that, and I applied it in my consulting business and realized, hey, by the way, this wonder of wonders, these people know what they're doing. This is what works. I've discovered it. So after a while, I realized, this really needs to be shared with other people, other businesses, and in particular, small business owners, because, as you know, Mucha, I feel very strongly, I try not to be a negative person, but I feel very strongly that there are people out there, these self-appointed experts, instant experts, that are really kind of doing a disservice to folks by telling them to do the wrong thing. It's not, many of us are spinning our wheels with social media, myself included in the past, because we've been given lousy information about how to use it by people who have good intentions, most of them, but are really actually, and many of these folks, Mucha, have never even worked in marketing before, like direct response marketing in particular, so they don't get it.
It's a real interesting one, Jeff, because as you know, I try and do as much as I can with the local business, the mom and pop at this level, just to sort of educate them a little bit. And even some of the larger companies, whenever I speak to them about social media, they sound like jilted lovers, that somebody's come over and just sort of said, and I kid you not, the conversation is often, we had an expert come and we spent this amount of money on them and blah, blah, blah. And I just look at something like myself with the timeline when that started out in March, and I can honestly say that, 30 hours a week you spend spend doing that? Because I pride myself on being a serial researcher, but Jeff, brother, you're at a different level, man. I mean, when I read the people you've spoken to and all the rest of it, I mean, was it important that you went out and you got other people's perspective and then synthesized it where we could all understand it?
Yeah, that is essentially where my expertise comes from. I mean, as you know, Mucha, I don't like the word guru at all. I'm even shying away from the word social media expert, although people, I have to go out to the world as an entrepreneur and say that I'm an expert in, if you're going to sell knowledge in online or in a book format. But I stand on, and I try to start all my keynote speeches and on this note, and in my training, I quickly introduce you to people who educated me on this stuff, and I put it to use. I'm blessed to have met these people. Many folks turned me down. In fact, I just got turned down last week by another business-to-business marketer who I can see they're doing great things, but they don't want to talk about it for competitive reasons, and that's fine. But many people are very, very excited, especially the entrepreneurs, to talk about their success because it's almost like they really didn't know what to do, and they tried something different. And that something different, in essence, was relying on their instincts. And some of these people did have experience doing direct response marketing, and they went, oh, gee, this internet thing goes both ways. I don't just need to, it's great for broadcasting and talking about myself, but it's even better for getting people to respond. And then when people respond, I can nurture a lead. These are not new ideas. Getting people to respond to your advertisement and then nurture that lead into a sale. And that is what I found people discovering on their own. If they didn't know about direct response or didn't practice direct response, they discovered that, and they're like, well, that's not that hard. And an email autoresponder, and nurturing leads, these are sometimes new ideas, but none of this is brain surgery. So I mean, getting those people to connect to those people and then capturing their stories, not only their practices but their stories, then allows me to go on and tell their stories to people who are working in similar industries and make it real and tangible for people.
So we move forward now, Jeff, because there's a bit of a sort of tongue-in-cheek statement, as you know, you're really speaking to somebody who knows a lot about Facebook when they begin the sentence by saying, the last time I checked, Facebook were doing this, because it changes all the time, So in your case then, what are some of the key differences with social media when you first sort of started, when you were doing your research, versus where we find ourselves sort of right now in the latter part of 2012?
I don't see it changing much. I know everybody says it's changing really fast, and Facebook is a real pain in the butt with all their changes. But I really see it this way, Mucha. I see, and in particular Facebook, these are inventions, really cool inventions, that, with some exceptions, weren't really created for marketing. And I think Facebook is the epitome of that.
Absolutely.
And ever since Facebook came around, it has been trying desperately to find a way to make money, which is noble, and at the same time do what it does best for people and provide this experience for people who want to stay connected. And I think that Facebook has done a great job of making money selling ads, as has Twitter. But that's an old idea,
Absolutely.
So I don't see social media having changed very much. I see it as most platforms as struggling. I mean, look at LinkedIn as an example. I'm about to publish another blog on LinkedIn, and giving a real critical look at it in terms of what we have learned after, I think I'm saying 3 or 5 years of LinkedIn spam inside groups, LinkedIn groups. I think it's time to pick up our heads and say, well, what have we learned? And I think one of the things we've learned about social media and the internet in general, Mucha, unfortunately, is that humanity has a tendency to, when it comes to the internet, we have a tendency to defecate in the well that we drink from. We have a tendency to spam, affiliate marketing. These are things that are great ideas. I mean, email is a great idea. Affiliate marketing is a great idea. Revenue, commission-based sales. What a great idea. And these ideas have done so many great things for humanity. But then we create a new environment, and like I said, we defecate in the well that we drink out of, all in the name of again, capitalism. So I don't really see. I have kind of a dark view, Mucha, on the change. I don't see it changing I don't see it changing fast enough.
I agree with you, and this is the key, and it's probably not the greatest example, Jeff, but I'll give it to you anyway. It's kind of like having a phone with just so many different things you can do on that phone, and ultimately, if you know that you can make phone calls with it, and you can send text messages, and maybe you can download emails with it, and things like that. Those are the fundamentals that you probably stick with. But if somebody is then sort of saying, oh yeah, and the phone can do this and it can do that, and half the things you're never going to use, and with the social media, there's a new thing that's been added here or a new thing that's been added there, and we spend hours, or we're led to believe we need to spend hours learning that and applying that. And I think there's a bare sort of minimum that we need. It was the great legendary copywriter Gary Halbert who said, you need three things to sell. Number one is obviously you need something to sell, a product, a service, a program, etc. Secondly, you need a sales pitch, why this is really important, why this is great, why I'm the person to deliver. And thirdly, you need a delivery mechanism. You need a place where you first begin to promote that before getting them to do something. And I think when you look at a Facebook fan page, a timeline, the fact that you can put an image there and then get a link and send them to a blog, that's job done. But too often now we're getting, all these different updates and different, bells and whistles that are added. And unfortunately, the smaller business in particular, whose time, really does make a difference. And if they're not selling, they're not eating, they just get overwhelmed. And that's when the sort of shutters go up and they say, no, look, forget it. We it's impossible. You can't do anything with social media,
Yeah, I think the most harmful aspect of this is, forget about that. I guess what I want to say is that what you and I are identifying right now is just the reality that most people are living in, and that reality is that we have been thus far reacting to social media's arrival. Now the good news is that, and I like talking about good news, Mucha, is that we now have a choice, right? And that choice is that we can continue to say to ourselves and wake up every morning and come into the office and say, I got to do that social media, that damn social media thing today. This is nothing but a waste of time, and you're really skeptical about it, or even in the early days, you run in there and you do it for a few months, and then a few months turns into a few years, and you feel like, why am I doing this? And the answer that I'm putting out there, Mucha, and I think that attracts a certain type of person, is that yes, social media is important. Yes, social media can achieve great things for your organization, including creating leads and sales. No, social media is not something that you should be driven to do simply because out of defense, right? It's here now. My customers are on it. I got to do it. That is no longer. I mean, I'm saying here and now, today, and everybody who's listening to this, that is not a legitimate reason to go out and invest time and energy in something. What is a legitimate reason to do that is to take a breath, and this is where people are finding what I'm offering to be very refreshing, and where you essentially, the main thing, Mucha, and keeping the main thing, that's the job when any new technology arrives, right? We've got the main thing is leads and sales. The main thing isn't getting retweeted and isn't Facebook and isn't blogging. The main thing is leads and sales. So if you just approach social media and keep saying to yourself, I'm going to get back to basics. I'm going to keep the main thing. The main thing is generating leads and sales. You'll be amazed at how, if you're not defensive about it, if you're not saying, I got to go learn this stuff, you'll be amazed at how creatively you can think. And that's, in the case of Amanda Kinsella, who I love to talk about, she's selling heating and air conditioning units on Facebook. And the reason she's able to do that, Mucha, is because she she took a break. She's like, all right, I learned, I went out there and I learned how to use Facebook and I learned how to blog and all that kind of stuff, but it's not doing anything for me. So she just calmed down about it. And she's like, the main thing is really the main thing. The main thing is leads and sales. And, in the past, this is how I've gone about it. And the next thing you know, she started using this new tool in a very old, effective way.
Absolutely.
So that's when it started to pay off for her. When she calmed down, she wasn't in defense mode. She wasn't struggling to learn it and reading all these blogs every week. The top 10 list for achieving this and that. And the achieving this and that is never sales. It's just never sales.
Do you know what though, Jeff? There's some psychology in us, and over the last couple of years in particular, I've got more and more into the whole psychology and the influence and the persuasion side of things. But we are wired as animals to sort of act on things that when we feel that there is an impact of loss more than a gain, so if we're going to miss out on something. So then when we see these 3 things you simply have to be doing on Facebook, we think, geez, and we go to that, and it takes our eye off just getting on the phone and saying, by the way, would you like to order what we spoke about the other day,
It's understandable, but it's time now to empower yourself and just say, I'm not, people go, what do you say? You say just say no to social media? No, I'm saying just keep the main thing. And then people oftentimes say to me, well, what the hell does that mean? And what it means is getting back to basics. And keeping the main thing leads in sales. That's what we're doing this for. That's what you run a business for. Without that, certainly branding and marketing and that kind of thing. But again, that all comes back to sales too.
I think some of the biggest success I've had for clients with social media, Jeff, has been 2 things that you mentioned right at the start of the call. Number 1 is getting them to have an autoresponder email, a landing page of sorts, and then just adding a link on whatever part of social media. So someone goes to the Facebook page, they see their www. Normally to a landing page. They go to that landing page that has the relevant content. They put their name in the autoresponder, and they go ahead and do it. Sometimes it's just as simple as optimizing a social media platform where people can click through somewhere else, and that's been very successful.
What I've been saying lately, actually I borrowed it from someone who I heard in the kitchen cabinet industry, who I interviewed on a podcast. He said, Jeff, the objective is to get people off of social media.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was profound, and ever since then I've been borrowing it. And that's what you're describing, which is again getting back to a very old concept of lead nurturing. Get the lead. It sounds obvious, but and again, the way you do that is through giveaways and other. It can be a gimmick, or it can be through other means like solving customers' problems, which I talk a lot about in the book and the training.
You do indeed. So Jeff, we have we've highlighted some of the frustrations people have been making, and now we're going to get a little bit specific here. I always like to sort of point out three areas that people maybe are not doing as well as they could have, and then also ask you to sort of provide 3 implementable nuggets, so when they come off this call they can sort of just go straight ahead. So what 3 mistakes, and I know there are so many more than 3, but if you were to pick 3 mistakes that most people make with social media, either in the doing or the thinking, what would you say they are?
Well, at a really broad level, like I said, it's worth saying again, the way that you think about it really affects the way that you execute it. So if you are in defensive mode, if you are saying to yourself, I got to do this social media thing because, I got to do it. Everybody tells me I got to do it, and I feel like I might be left behind. Well, don't be surprised, because if you manifest things that you don't want or need, or lack of success. And this all gets back to what Bob Proctor preaches, and if any of your listeners have ever watched the movie The Secret, right? The law of attraction, right? If you are thinking negative thoughts, that's what you're going to manifest in your life. If you're thinking I just got to do this social media thing, well, don't be surprised if you ultimately end up with likes and friends and followers and clicks and views and shares and not very many leads and sales. Okay, so it really is kind of it's funny, but it's not, right? I mean, the way that your expectation. Most people go out there. Many people, when they first get involved in social media, they don't really expect sales to happen. So anyway, so expect sales, but the three big mistakes that I see people making are, and they're easily fixed. Is that they're using it to market themselves. Now, I know that sounds weird because it's called social media marketing, but what I am suggesting works, what I know works, because, again, I've experienced it, and after being taught how to do this, is don't use social media to market yourself. Instead, use it. The marketing will happen if you focus on solving customers' problems with it in ways that you can connect easily, that tie back to whatever it is that you sell.
Fantastic.
So the marketing will happen if you just focus on solving customers' problems. So that's mistake number one. And that's also implementable nugget number one. We can talk about what I mean by that in a minute. Yeah. But number two is they, again, broadcast on social media. In other words, folks are out there telling. Instead, everything that you do with social media, if you want to create leads and sales with it, should be pre-designed to provoke a response. So at the end of this program, I would encourage everybody listening to do this one thing. Just take notice if you are doing this when you post or you tweet or you update your Facebook status or participate in LinkedIn groups. Notice what you're doing. Are you broadcasting, in essence, with social media? Ask yourself at the end of this program, how often am I deliberately provoking a response when I use social media? And if you are way ahead of the game, and that's great. However, there's always room for improvement, right? Sure. What are you doing with that response to capitalize on that response? If you're sending, I think you had said this a minute ago, Mucha, if you're sending someone to your blog, bravo, you're getting them, off of Facebook and onto your blog. But are you, once they arrive on your blog, as an example, inviting your customers on a journey to get a problem solved or experience something? If you're selling an experience, like if you're a resort owner or something like that, are you inviting your customers to experience something in a powerful new way, a journey, if you will, that creates demand for whatever it is that you're selling, that yes, involves things like an email autoresponder, and yes, could involve something like a video tutorial or a short video that, again, if you're selling an experience as opposed to a product that solves a problem, that tries to dramatize, that does dramatize whatever that experience is that you sell, in a way that over time you can correlate back to what it is that you sell. So I guess that's mistake number two. And number three, most people are out there listening on social media because we're told that that's by the experts, this is what we have to do, right? We have to listen to what people are talking about, and that is important to hear what people are saying about you, right? But we're not doing anything with it. Yeah. Most of us are failing to do anything with it, anything meaningful. So, Mucha, have you ever found yourself staring into your browser? I know you have. I do. Or you're not anymore, actually. Staring into your browser or your blog software, saying to yourself, what do I blog about?
Yeah, before, where I've been very lucky with the social media, and it's on that very last point that you've mentioned, and you actually taught me this, and I remember it because I had your audio program every time I was driving to see my dear old dad last year. I just used to put your audio program and listen to that. And what was a massive, massive thing for me, Jeff, was listening to what people were saying on social media and then using that as my marketing copy.
Right. Now, exactly.
I got that from you, totally.
Because you know exactly what I always like to say what their itches are that you can scratch. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, what I'm really talking about is their pains, their goals, their ambitions, what they yearn for, what they want to accomplish in their life, what they're fearful of.
And it's amazing how when one person, how so many people are experiencing that, even though it might be just one or two comments coming from people, you know?
Absolutely. And you know now, if you're listening, what has them scared, what has them concerned, what has them worried. You know now what problems they need solved. And even more importantly, when it gets into the tactics, like when you create a blog post, now you know. I guess my point is, in asking you that is, I as long as I'm out there listening, and I am, like with my site, askjeffmolander.com, all that does is collect. It listens to what the problems are, what the questions are, and how people are actually wording the questions. So now I know now how to make a blog that will use that exact phrase that will, that is being used by people when they Google, when they go to Bing or Google and they type in questions, which people do. Now I know how those questions are being phrased so that I can create blog copy and blogs that will pop up on page 1 of Google more often. So that's number 3 is, listening, but really translating what it is that you're hearing into something that you can use. So again, I guess the 3 mistakes people are making is, number 1, marketing themselves instead of selling and solving customers' problems with social media. Number 2, broadcasting on social media instead of really provoking responses with it. And number 3, just listening with social media as opposed to listening and then saying, aha, there's a itch, there's a itch, and I can scratch that itch a little bit in a way that will, again, provoke, tell me, number 1, what problems to be solving, and number 2, help me provoke that response, because I'm going to use the right words now, and I know what matters to people. And that's the one thing that you can do with social media, like nothing else, is you can be provocative. And I just don't see very many business to business or business to consumer marketers out there taking a risk by saying something that other people haven't said before. In fact, a lot of times what ends up happening is, I think we see in the media, someone will say something that isn't offensive, but it is something new, and oftentimes the way that the blogosphere seems to react to it is, oh, that was a mistake. And I thought to myself, well, in the world of public relations, as they say, and all publicity is good, right? I mean, unless you're really right, unless you're really, evil, offensive person.
I think we've all got a handle on what will qualify even as bad news. But yeah, you're right, Jeff. You're totally right. And I think that really is one of the things that really drew me to you in your teaching. There was an almost, dare I say, a bit of a sort of pugnacious street fighter attitude about it, to say, hey, look, I'm going to stand up and say that a lot of these guys are full of and this is what we've got to do. And I thought it was so refreshing.
Yeah, I toned it down a little bit since we first met, Musa, but I've been encouraged, and all credit goes to you. And a small handful of other folks who have said, don't ever lose that edge completely. Don't ever stop kind of myth busting. And that's really kind of, I don't want to make this into a personal thing. There are certainly people out there who I believe are really out to take people's money. Not many of them, but there are people out there who have training programs and books, and they're out to take people's money and ride the social media horse as long as they can, and really not take them full circle. Not give them lots of information. And there are people out there, unfortunately, who have, like you said earlier, Mucha, they've gone through that training, and they've paid the money, and they oftentimes even write testimonials for these people saying, you know what, I got my $2,000 worth out of it because you gave me so much information. Well, that's just not good enough for me. I don't want to take money from people and have them go, yeah, thanks for that information, and then have them put it on the shelf. I actually want to and am helping people grow their business, and I know that is what you do also, Lucia. That's why I'm investing my time in talking to you and the people who matter to you and your customers.
And we're incredibly grateful, mate, really are. So is there a bit of a crossover between the mistakes to avoid and the nuggets to put? Because I believe there are. I think those 3 mistakes you pointed out are the 3 nuggets that could turn around and really transform some fortunes. Would you agree, or are there?
Yeah.
No, that's
absolutely. I mean, solve customers' problems. Stop worrying about all the technical aspects. So focus more on solving customers' problems. And if your product or service doesn't solve a problem for somebody, it likely then creates an experience a new experience for someone, like a romance novelist or a travel resort, or in something in the hospitality industry, something like that. Focus on kind of sampling those experiences, those very unique experiences that you provide. So that's number one. Number two being designed to sell, and that's where we're talking about being provocative, but that provocation needs to lead to something. It needs to lead to a call to action that says, here, I'm going to take you on a journey that scratches your itch some more, that gives you more information, that will give you a new skill, that will show you how to avoid the risk you're looking to avoid. And if we do this correctly, if we design to sell, everything like that we put out there onto social media should again solve a problem or give you an experience, a sample of an experience, but in a way that is incomplete. So Gunnar Branson, who we met on that webinar together, Musha, he likens it to the illegal narcotics trade, right? You're like a drug dealer. You're giving out a little bit of a sample, and you're proving through giving out that sample that you know what it is that you're talking about. You're moving the needle for somebody, and that's why I do my free training, so that I can prove to people that I know what I'm talking about because I can actually create results for them. And in that way, I'm taking them on a journey, and I'm showing them, I'm proving to them that if they pay me, I can take them even further. And if I do that correctly, Mucha, what ends up happening is, unlike a drug dealer, people do become addicted, people do become excited, and they often say to me, I just had someone email me last week from South America, and he said, well, what's next? And I said, what's next, my friend, is a training program that will, I just showed you how to use a blog in a different way, in a more productive way that generates a lead for you. And folks are saying to me, they're addicted. They say, I got it, Jeff. I got your main concepts. I need someone to coach me for a month or a year. And I really want to get better at this. You've already proven yourself to me. What's next? And at that point, you've got the customer asking you for the sale. Yeah. And you don't have to prove. You say the price, and the customer pays it if they have the money, if they can afford it. If they can't, then they can't. But at that point, people are asking you for the sale, and what better position to be in? Indeed. And I'm sorry. And then number three is translate, to listen and then actually use that information. To solve the problem, to design. It's a big loop. Now you know what problems to solve. Now you know what words to use. Now you know what action to provoke and how to provoke it. And you're no longer staring at your computer screen going, "What do I do on social media? Where do I do it? And what do I do?"
Absolutely. No, fantastic stuff. So, Jeff, as we approach 2013, and I'm looking forward to your answer here, what are your predictions, if any, for social media? Now, I appreciate that's like walking into a greengrocer's and going, vegetables, but what do you see happening next year in social media? What do your senses tell you, and what's the word on the street?
You said if any, so I guess I don't feel so bad saying I have no idea, Mucha. I'm actually too busy focusing on making things happen for myself, for my own business, and for other people. I guess, to be fair to the question, I think that we are going to see much more of the same. I don't think that the global economy has yet had the meltdown that it needs. I don't think that we economically are feeling the pain yet, although certainly the folks over here in the U.S. Are working diligently to make sure that we have the folks who govern our fine nation are working diligently to make sure that we have the actual kind of economic meltdown that we should have had a few years ago. So I think things are going to get worse business-wise before they get better. I'm a little pessimistic on that, but and that will drive, I think, the success of my success and your success, Mucha, and anybody who believes that this is all about putting bread on the table, that ultimately capitalism is a great thing, and that marketing needs to serve sales ultimately. Absolutely. I think if anything changes, I really truly believe that as things get worse, and I believe they will get worse, I'm sorry, that there will be more of a focus on making money in honest ways, Mucha, in ways that empower people. So many people out there have great services and great products that solve problems in new ways, and there's so much innovation, and a lot of the crappy products that have dominated, I think, will fall by the wayside as not without a struggle, but I think that a lot of good can come of the impending pain. But as for social media marketing, I think the change will come through through that economic change.
And that's great. I also believe, Jeff, that there has been a very significant shift, hasn't there, with even LinkedIn with the way they're doing their company pages there, and Facebook and all the rest of it, and Twitter with their advertising. They're all sort of catching on to the fact that, hey, you know what? While it's great to have people on here and having a whole feel-good factor, we got to start earning some money. So I actually believe the need for education for social media is going to just need to be done at an even higher, more specific level next year. Now, the fly-by-nighters, they're going to come out and they're going to sort of flash their sort of 5-minute products in front of people. But I honestly believe this, and I'm not just saying this because you're my pal and that I believe in the way you teach. But unless people learn the principles and the strategies that you teach, next year when people are just throwing all sorts of advertising opportunities and coupons to go on LinkedIn or Facebook and blah, 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 they're just going to be in a sea, and they're just not going to know which way to go. So I think the need for education to really learn about saying, okay, it's kind of like saying you've got to block and tackle to win football games. There's some simple stuff, almost boring at times, you've got to do in order to succeed.
That's exactly it. And I find myself explaining this early on in the training that I provide, in the keynote speeches I'm doing. And one way I'm fond of phrasing it lately is, and this usually in the keynote situations gets a look of concern from the person who's writing me the check. I say to the crowd, I'm not here to teach you anything new about social media. Mm-hmm. Because I think you already know, far too much. You're being flooded with information. You know enough about social media. You're being flooded with information about social media in terms of how to apply it, why to apply it, and what I'm here to do is help you refocus on getting back to basics and keeping the main thing. And the rest of the time that we're going to spend together today in my training or in my keynote is I'm going to be qualifying that statement. I'm going to prove to you very quickly that the magic is not in social media. The magic is in what we already know works.
Yeah.
That let me if you don't know what direct response marketing is all about, let me make it crystal clear for you. And one of the ways I like to do that, Mooch, is I suggest to people, what is it when you look at it, an infomercial? What is it that we all love about infomercials? We know it's a sales pitch, but somehow we get sucked into watching these things. And oftentimes we, at the end, there's a free something, that a booklet or a CD-ROM or something that, it's free. So we get sucked. That's what direct response marketing is. That's what social media is about. That's what you have an opportunity to do on social media through video, through Facebook, is tempt people.
Absolutely.
Show them visually, suck them in, and let them watch you actually solving a problem in a new way. And that's what an infomercial is. And you may not even have that problem. You're watching, you go, gee, my aunt probably has, or my son will probably have that problem, or I should probably buy that for my mom or my dad.
The way they communicate the transformation in those things as well. You're here now, or your stove is like this, or your vegetables are like this, and after using this they'll be like that, sort of thing. They take them along that way, and it's still the purest form of direct. I just say that because I'm a direct response guy, but that's really interesting. And I think the other thing I often say, Jeff, and it probably not the greatest analogy, but one all the same, is that you might be thirsty or you might be hungry. I like to use hungry on a call like this, and you go home and you have something to eat, and there's a certain limit, a threshold where you'll eat and your hunger will go away and you'll be fed and it'll be good for you, and then you might carry on eating or you might carry on drinking. And it's the same with social media. There's a certain amount of things you need to know about Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. You don't have to know 15 or 20 or 25 little bitty things as well. Get the basics, get the fundamentals right, and it can really help you.
And the trouble with that is, you're absolutely right, Mucha. The thing is that we humans believe that anything new requires our immediate mastery of it. And there's an entire industry. The real issue is not that. That's just human. That's just the way humans function. The real problem is that there's an industry out there that just doesn't stop. There are websites out there. There are blogs out there. There are experts out there that continue to pile on more information. And oftentimes, Mucha, it is information that certainly seems new, but isn't.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, you've read these top 10 ways to achieve X, Y, Z with Twitter or Facebook before, but different words.
Yeah.
So that's where we start feeling like, oh my God, I can't keep up with this. And guys like me and you step into the room and go, keep up with what? I mean, oftentimes people ask me, reporters and people who interview me, usually the third question they ask is, how do you keep up with all the change? And I answer, well, what do you mean, how do I keep up with change? Most of the change doesn't really affect any of the stuff that matters.
Absolutely.
Facebook's changes, yes, they do have some impact, but ultimately Pinterest and all these, there's always something new to arrive, and how do you keep up with all those new arrivals? And I end up saying to people, well, you know what, most of those new arrivals don't really have a distinct business use. They're a solution looking for a problem, and if you look at it that way, critically and honestly, and many times people are afraid to look at it that way because why? Because we have a whole industry going, Pinterest, now you need to learn how to market on. I mean, the damn thing just arrived, right?
Yeah.
Got instant experts on it telling everybody, and we're human. We're like, oh no, another social media platform I got to learn, and we get sucked into that vortex.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeff, when with all this, as we begin to wrap up now, with so much you've learned and done, it has no doubt, and I'm not speaking out of turn here or being presumptuous, but it has no doubt come with a little bit of pain as well. Some lessons learned on maybe I could have done it a little bit differently when I was learning this or that strategy. So if you were to do it all over again, and you're talking about your actual social media journey up to the sort of aha moment and how you've wanted to position yourself and the kind of people that you can best resonate with and interact with, are there any things that you would do different?
I would have met you sooner, Mucha, because
oh, bless you.
No, seriously, and I'll be brief with this because I, in honor of your audience, you helped me. You're my coach, and you're the guy who helped me really refine what I knew was the right direction. I mean, you said as much to me. You said, Jeff, you're on a rocket, but I'm telling you, I can give you a little bit more, a larger engine for that rocket if you're interested, and I was interested. And when we met, I had a good book with a solid subtitle and a URL, and Make Social Sell, and you helped me improve, some otherwise disjointed my other websites, and you came along and really pushed me to say, Jeff, make your URL more clear and more compelling. MakeSocialMediaSell.com was born essentially, and it quickly upgraded with an original. I upgraded that site with an original podcast material and videos and written content. But before that, I just saw this huge opportunity in the market. Where everybody was struggling, but ultimately, if I could do anything differently, yes, I would have met you sooner, but I would have trusted myself a little bit more, made mistakes faster. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
But just, not be so afraid. And this is, again, one of the things that you really pushed me on. And I had a couple of other folks, I can count them on one hand, saying, get it done, get it out. Yes, it needs to be the best that you can do, but at some point you need to get it out there quickly, and get people to find out if it resonates with people fast and make adjustments and improve it. So I guess I would have trusted, I would have done that faster, and my instincts were telling me, I should be doing that kind of stuff, but you second guess yourself all the time, and you've got that. I'm a big Eckhart Tolle fan, and as he likes to say, you've got the voices in your head, and the biggest piece of advice I can give any entrepreneur is And there's a lot to be said. There's a lot I disagree with when it comes to following your passion. At some point, you have to think logically. Right?
Oh, big time.
You have to listen.
Yeah. No, big time.
The voices
I
in your head
agree.
make sense, right?
Yeah.
But you really do need to focus on what your heart tells you to do, what your heart and your not the voices in your head, but the voices that are coming at you from other directions. Your customers, your potential customers. If you see people suffering, and if you feel that you can contribute in a way that eliminates some of the suffering and helps people create wealth in their lives, then you should never second guess that. You shut off the voices in your head that tell you I can't do it or I should be doing it a different way, and just get it out there. And once you've got it out there, I guess there's a guy out there who's preaching this in the software industry. And I forget how he phrased it exactly, but it's something along the lines of, make your runway shorter. You've got to make, you're going to get this thing off the ground, just make your runway shorter. Get it off the ground faster, because there's always going to be time to improve it.
I think there are a couple of ironies, Jeff, with what you do and what you do so well. During my sort of time in travel and tourism, and then I'm also very fortunate that my big brother's hugely in the finance industry. I was always sitting down with numbers guys, and as you well know, marketing guys and accountants don't tend to be the best of pals, because you've got one wonderfully sort of creative mind, I need to go here, and the other one saying, well, hold on a minute, what are we getting out of this? And then when I realized that, 9 times out of 10, they're incredibly good at taking the emotion out of things, these finance guys, and they just focus on the numbers. So that's when I began to say to myself, well, hold on a minute. This fella's talking about how to get this bright new shiny object, this thing that everybody's saying we've got to get a piece of out
right
there. But he's saying, hey, I can actually show you how you can get a return on this. And that's when I thought, it does not surprise me for a moment that when you go to some of these fly-by-night organizations and marketers, that they don't want to learn from you because it's just too much hard work. And I just feel that, you've got something. Social media is not going away. I think we're both in agreement of that. It's going to continue to get more robust, more complicated. And if you are continuing to show people to say, right, here it is, but this is how you monetize it, I think that's so powerful. And unfortunately, you've been a minority with that. And that's just why I wanted to encourage you,
Well, if it wasn't for that encouragement, I don't know where I'd be. I can honestly say that. I know it sounds like a bunch of smoke up your skirt, but so be it.
No, I appreciate that. So, Jeff, this is vitally important now, because I would be very surprised if there aren't people now who want to connect with you, read your fantastic book, or listen to the audio. Where can they find you? Where, what can you sort of offer people? I know you're very big on giving value and so on and so forth. Where can they go to find more about you, connect with you?
I'll be honest with you. My pride and joy is my training program.
Okay.
Because it's having so much positive effect on people, on the businesses and the careers of folks who are running through it. I have created a free version of the $500 training program at socialsellingbootcamp.com.
Okay, brilliant.
If you go to that URL.
And I'll put a link on the page here as well, so that's great.
Thank you so much. If you go to that URL, there's a quick 3-minute little introduction where I promise you and I explain to you everything you're going to get. In essence, what you're going to get is 3 video lectures. They're like 7-8 minutes long each, and a couple of worksheets that are going to change the way that you use blogs. And like I said, it's my pride and joy because it's just so successful for me. It's a demonstration of the 3 success principles that I'm preaching, so that when you run through this free training program, and certainly the paid training program, you actually are experiencing the actual, what I'm teaching you. And that's the best way that's the most value that I could provide anybody listening. The other way is, through my website, makesocialmediasell.com. If you sign up on that front page, I will, obviously send you, as an example, a free copy of Chapter 1 of my book. And
which is fantastic.
Tips and tricks on thank you, and tips and tricks on in video format. You'll get to listen to Marcus Sheridan, my actual raw interview with him. You'll be inspired beyond belief, but not only inspired, but you'll be given motivation and guidance on what to do and how to do it, in terms of how Marcus is creating such success with his blog, shortening his sales cycle, creating new revenue streams. I mean, he's doing remarkable things with blogs. So you'll get to meet some really cool people that actually inspired me. Again, like you, Mucha. Marcus helped inspire me to finish writing the book. So,
good.
Great people. But that's the best way to reach me.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Jeff, this conversation, as we were saying right at the start, has been a long time overdue. So I'm just really pleased. I'm privileged that you took the time to get on the call this early and speak with me. And thank you for the value that you've provided. I say once again, thank you for really having a significant place in the way I decided to direct my sort of business and my strategy. And can we get you back on the show, in the new year, so we can have an update on what's been going on, and you can give us some more value and some things that
I'm
working.
Sure. I mean, I'd be happy to. We can do whatever format you'd like. I can bring with a success story.
Brilliant.
That's one that you haven't heard before. I'm always out there looking, and if any of your listeners think that they have used this formula that I explained today to create success in their business, give me a call. Jeff@jeffmolander.com. Send me an email. I'm always looking to talk about successes and showcase people who are having success and profile how they're doing it. But we could do something like that to make it a little bit more interesting. Or,
fantastic. Thank you. Well, my friend, thank you so much, and well done with how you're really sort of moving this forward. That website, once again, for the free training is socialsellingbootcamp.com. Really get on there, study it, and thank you once again for joining us for Ask the Experts. And Jeff, thanks again, man.
All the best to you, Musha. Thanks.